In this lesson, we are going to learn about climate and how it is able to affect how vines grow and grapes ripen, and how this will have an effect on a wine's flavor. Imagine seeing somebody sticking their nose into a glass of wine, give it a big sniff and a taste, and say, that's interesting. Must have been a lot of rain that year. Surely this is some kind of magic. How can someone know what the weather was doing years ago just from tasting a wine? It's because everything that affects a vine and its fruit leaves a message that can be passed into the wine and read by drinkers years and years later. It's what makes wine such a crazy, beautiful, and interesting beverage. Every vintage is different, and every year tells different stories. The language that these stories are written in is the language of flavor. Let's start by understanding what climate means. Generally, we can say that climate refers to the long-term pattern of temperature, rain, wind, and other weather variables in a certain area. So, if you are from Dubai, you could say that your climate is hot and dry. Or more specifically, if you are from Hong Kong, you can say that you have a cool and dry winter, an unstable and wet spring, and a hot and humid summer. In relation to wine, we are going to focus on three main aspects of climate. These are temperature and sunlight, rainfall and wind. Let's start with temperature and sunlight. When we are speaking about the temperature of a specific climate that vines grow in, we are normally talking about the average temperature over the ripening period. This is from fruit set through veraison to harvest. As we learnt earlier, temperature and sunlight allow a grape to ripen, and ripening is the increase of sugar in a grape as well as the development of tannins and other flavor compounds. During this period, if the temperature is too high, the grapes could shrivel and turn into raisins before other parts are properly ripe. If the temperature is too low, the grapes will not ripen and you will end up with thin and acidic wines. These are extremes, but smaller changes in temperature will affect the flavor of the wines too. When you learn about different grape varieties in the next level, you will see that the same varieties will take on a different flavor depending on whether they are grown in a hot or cold climate. For example, when Sauvignon Blanc is grown in cool climates, the flavors are greener and more herbal. But when grown in warmer climates, the flavors will be tropical, like ripe lemons and guavas. For now, we can make some generalizations about temperature and sunlight. Grape varieties that tend to finish ripening very early will prefer cooler climates so that they have enough time to ripen slowly and properly. Grape varieties that ripen very late in the growing season will prefer warmer climates for the same reason. The longer the grapes take to ripen, the more developed, complex, and balanced the flavors will be. Now let's see how rainfall affects vines. All plants need rain to survive, but what is important is when they receive it and how much they receive. Rain in winter is important so that vines can regain their strength for the coming growing season. As vines go through the year, they need water to grow. Too little, and growing and ripening will come to a stop. If there is too much, the vines will grow too much. Too much growth is not a good thing. If the vine is growing too vigorously, it will produce lots of leaves, causing a thick canopy. Wine fact: the canopy on a vine is the name for all the leaves that shade the fruit. Vigor means how much a vine grows. If there are too many leaves, the berries will not get any sunshine and then not be able to ripen. Vigorous growth will also result in more grapes. This might sound good, but it isn't. Imagine that each vine has only a certain amount of flavor it can put into its grapes. If there are too many grapes, this flavor has to be divided up amongst all the grapes and the wine will be lacking in flavor. When it is close to harvest, too much rain is especially bad for winemakers as the water gets absorbed by the grapes, meaning that they will at worst split and go rotten, or simply get so filled with water that the flavor gets diluted. Finally, let's take a look at wind. Wind can either be incredibly helpful to the vine or disastrous. During flowering, if there are very strong winds, many of the flowers can get blown off, meaning that there will be a lot less flowers to turn into grapes. If the vines are in a hot climate, but there are regular cool winds blowing across the vines, they can help to lower the temperature for the vines, allowing them to ripen for longer. As you can see, trying to understand these three different climatic aspects separately is impossible. They all work together to create a climate. In an area where it is very hot during the summer, it will need a cooling wind to bring the temperatures down and a good amount of rainfall to make sure that the vines stay alive. Whereas an area that is generally wet and cool will want as much sunlight as possible and less rain. Winemakers cannot change the climate they are in, but they can make certain choices and decisions based on what grape varieties they plant and how they look after the vines to make sure they are getting the best out of the climate that they are in.